This is Primosale cheese, which is a Sicilian cheese, and I brought it back from Sicily. It costed me €8.63 and it weighs just under 900 grams. It's made from latte di pecora, which is sheep milk. And it's very typical, very tasty, and it's the first stage of the cheese before then you make pecorino, which is what you grate often in pasta. Today I'm going to be making it, but I will be using cow's milk, which is a great substitute, and also in the UK where I live it's very difficult for me to access sheep milk, so I'm using fresh milk from the supermarket. But I will be making Primosale cheese with a bottle, and then I will be making some ricotta with the other bottle, and I will be using the waste product from the Primosale cheese to make the ricotta, because ricotta is a process of recooked cheese, so it makes it effective use of the first a lot of milk. All you'll need if you want to do this at home is a handful of lemons and some salt, and that's pretty much it, and milk. So let me show you. And I'll start with my first batch of milk, 4 pints or 2.3 liters, and I'll pour it inside a saucepan. Do ensure that you use a stainless steel, by the way. Important that you use something which is fairly neutral. And I'll turn this on and I'll get the milk to warm up. I've actually used the Primosale in some of my recipes on the channel, and some of you have commented wondering what it tastes like. So hopefully by making it today, if you make it, you will find out. And of course I've made it in the past and it is delicious, especially if you take your time and you leave it to mature. But if you happen to be in Sicily, do taste it over there, because actually, obviously, the traditional one made with sheep milk is even tastier. Whilst I remember, I add a pinch of salt to the milk. Beside the lemon, there are other products you can use on the market, but lemon is something that everybody's got at home and is very accessible, of course. So as I'm using lemon, I'm going to be heating up my milk until it reaches almost boiling point. Be careful, because if milk boils, it will go absolutely everywhere and then you'll blame me. So stay on top of it. Can you see that it's beginning to foam up already on the top? So it's not far off from boiling, and in it goes my lemon. And I'll turn it slightly down, otherwise I'll end up boiling it, and the lemon will break up the milk. A bit like if you ever left milk out too long, or maybe in the fridge, and it separates. That is exactly what I'm looking to achieve now. I'm trying to spoil it, if you see what I mean. You can see that immediately, as soon as I put the lemon in, the milk is beginning to separate, and I've got this greenish color liquid, the whey, and the white is separating from the milk. So this is what generally happens when you make cheese. And whilst I'm on a medium temperature, I'll continue whisking it for another minute. And you will know that you're on the right track, because beside looking a little bit foamy like this, also the smell will be like if you're in a dairy farm. So next I'll turn this off, and I'll place the lid on, and I'm going to be removing it from the heat altogether. And I'll see you in about 6 hours, when everything will have set, will have cooled down, and then I can separate the cheese from the whey, and you can see what I'll do next. I don't think I've planned this very well, by the way, as it is now 8 o'clock in the evening, but it doesn't really matter, I'm having fun. So 6 hours have passed, and this is cooled down very, very much. So I'll just show you why I did wait such a long time, because it's going to be considerably easier to now extract my cheese from the pan. So I'm just breaking it up using a knife. When you buy ricotta in the UK, you get it in a normal little plastic tub. But if you buy ricotta in Sicily in a supermarket, or indeed from a dairy farm, you will find that you get ricotta in one of those little containers, where you've got one of those little internal containers which has got some holes, and then the container itself. And that is because obviously the ricotta will go inside here when it's hot, and then it will drain. And this is also the same method they use to make the cheese, the Primosale. And I have brought a couple back from Sicily, because obviously I will make ricotta, and I will be using this, as it's considerably easier. And very simply, using a strainer, or you can use anything similar, as long as you're able to effectively remove as much liquid as possible, I'll start lifting my cheese out of the pot into my little container over here. And I would suggest that you do this exercise very slowly to ensure that you do not break it up unnecessarily and you get nice big chunks of cheese just like this. And I've seen a few videos where people believe that this is ricotta, and it isn't ricotta. This is cheese, it's a form of cheese, and it will be primosale at some point. So ricotta is the next stage. So for the time being, I'll just press it down with a spoon, and I'll put it on one side to start draining, and I'll make the ricotta next. Of course, some of you might say that ricotta is cheese, and you would be right, but that is not the cheese I was referring to. The cheese I'm referring to is the hard cheese, and we are making primosale, which is a hardish cheese, and ricotta is very soft, of course. So I'll turn the heat back on, and I'm now pouring the remainder of my second bottle in the waste product left from the first cheese, ricotta. As I said before, it's because we are recooking. Ricotta means recooked, of course. We are recooking the same milk that oops, I didn't turn it on, I'll do it now. We are recooking the same, the whey now, so that we can make ricotta, but we're going to be complementing with additional milk. Apologies, I might have confused you, as I think I used the word hay, not whey. Hay is what you give to horses. It's getting a little bit late, so it's whey what I meant to say, not hay. Anyhow, so I've got the milk on now, and I'm going to now squeeze one more lemon. So in total I will be using 3 lemons, so 2 lemons for the primosale and 1/3 lemon for my ricotta. Whilst the milk is warming up, I've got some of the whey from my primosale, so I'll pour it in and I'll carry on draining this. And the second time around, I'm happy that I do not need to wait until it's nearly boiling, as there is already a degree of acidity in there, so I'm going to add my extra lemon. And literally within a few seconds it's already beginning to separate, because the milk is warming up and the lemon is doing the job. Amazing. And once again, my temperature is on medium high, and I'm very gently moving it so that I disturb it, but also I want to make sure that it doesn't catch on the bottom. And I'll do this for a good couple of minutes until it reaches a fairly hot temperature, but definitely not the boil. More whey dripping through, so I can add it in. And I've been mixing it gently for about 5 minutes, and you can see that this is all ricotta, and underneath, I'm not sure if you can see, because obviously there is quite a bit of ricotta there, but there is a green liquid, which is the whey. So I'll turn it off now, and I will leave it to rest for 10 minutes, and I'll show you what to do next. Whilst the ricotta cools down, I'm going to show you some alternative containers you can use. So this is what I will be using, another one of those ones from Sicily. However, also I've got here something which I very successfully used in the past, is a rice cooker. And if you look, I've got some very fine holes and a little container at the bottom, and ideal, because I used to put it here and then drain it, and eventually I would achieve the same. Also, you can use a strainer, one of those. You can see if you got a bowl underneath, your ricotta will stay here and the liquids will drain. So let's make a start and see what this looks like now, and I'll repeat exactly the same process I did before, but you will see that the consistency of this is slightly different. So can you see? It's really, really beautiful. Look at this. Isn't that wonderful? So I'll start filling in my container, and I have purposely used a larger container for my ricotta, because obviously I will have some cheese from the whey from before, and of course some cheese from the new batch of milk. So I'm going in with my strainer once again, and I'm doing exactly the same job. And again, if you're very careful and you take your time, you will find that you will end up picking up big chunks of ricotta, making the second step of this exercise considerably easier. There are 2 steps, by the way, but it's very simple. But my container is not big enough, so this is full. I'll see what else I can find. Well, I don't need to look for it because I've got it here. So I will continue using my rice cooker. So the 10 minutes was definitely worthwhile waiting, because it's given me the opportunity to pick big chunks of ricotta and do this considerably quicker. But there is still quite a bit of ricotta there, so let me show you what to do next. Muslin cloth. We used to have lots of this when our children were very little. So I'll put that on top of my little container. And using a ladle, I'm now filling my rice cooker with the whey and with my leftover ricotta, and you can see what this does, and will filter the ricotta from the liquid. This is considerably easier if you do it now, because obviously there is less ricotta, and if you were to do this at the beginning, your muslin cloth would be all clotted with ricotta. So I've now got here lots of liquid, and I'm going to lift my muslin cloth like this, very gently of course, because this is hot and you could easily burn yourself, so be careful. Do it with care, and I'll lift it up, drain some of the, or as much liquid as possible. So the next job is to remove this ricotta from over here, and very easily is draining inside my container with the rest of the whey. And this is getting clotted, so I'm going in with a spoon to ensure that all of the liquid is extracted. I'll move this out of the way over here. This is pure whey now, and I've got no longer any use for it, so I'll place it inside a glass bowl like this. My muslin cloth can go back in, and I still got the ricotta from the first filtering exercise, which is fine, so we can see how much I can recover, and I'll strain the rest of my liquid, and then we will see how much I was able to rescue. And as I get towards the end, of course, it's considerably easier to just pour it in. And I'll lift this up and I'll leave it to drain until most of the liquid has gone. And I'm nearly done. This is the remainder of my whey. Look how much there is in there. This, by the way, is very high in protein, and I think some people have a use for it. I have never used it rather than giving it to Julie, and I think she adds some water and then she puts in the garden as a form of fertiliser. But it is very hot, so I'll put it on one side to cool down, and then I'll deal with this tomorrow morning. And back to my ricotta. So this is what I've managed to rescue by filtering. I know it's not a lot, but a couple of dessert spoons. Why waste it? And this was what was left from before, so I add it together. And as it has cooled down, it is easier for me to go in with my hands and squeeze the remaining liquid out, just like this. This can go with the rest over here, and believe it or not, this is actually ready for consumption. You could eat it straight away. And I'm going to taste it actually while it's warm, so I can tell you straight away what it's like. So let's take a look. And it's very nice, as expected. It's very warm. And actually, funnily enough, it's amazing how the brain connects things. Warm ricotta, whenever I make like this, and the smell of the whey and the warmth of it, brings me back to when I was very little, about maybe 6 or 7. And I remember it was late summer, early September, and being woken up. My dad had like a station wagon, actually, what's it called, an estate car, and being woken up by one of my brothers because he had taken us to have ricotta. I don't even remember getting there, I just remember being woken up, and we were up in the mountains, and it was very early in the morning, and the sun was about to come up, and my brother said to me, "Come on, hurry up," because it's nearly light. And I remember going to see this shepherd, and my brothers and sisters and I and my dad, we were sitting around the fire. What you might not actually know is that we have 6, my mum and dad had 6 children, and I'm number 5. It's girl, boy, boy, girl, Francesco, and then another boy. And we didn't actually have a lot of money, but moments like this is what I really, really treasure, because I never tried warm ricotta before. And there was this shepherd who had made ricotta in one of those big metal pots, and it was all black because it was obviously corroded by the fire, and he had a wooden fire, and we were outside, and there was the whey and the ricotta, and it's called zabbina in Italian. I'll write it down so you can actually search it if you like. And we effectively went in the mountains, somewhere in the mountains, to have this breakfast. And I remember being so cold, because actually it was very early and I was only a little boy, and I had this little blanket on me with my brothers and sisters around this fire with my dad, and eating this ricotta, which I never tried before. And it's one of my very early memories of having warm ricottas. And it's simply funny how the brain connects these flavors and tastes sometimes to moments of your life when you were young. Absolutely delicious, and that is what reminds me of. Anyhow, this is ready, and what I'll do with ricotta, I've made many dishes on the channel. I've done some cakes, I've done some desserts, and also done some pasta dishes. And I thought that actually I would produce a little document listing some of the more popular ones, and then you can download it with photos, and there will be a link to each individual recipe. So if you want to make a ricotta and you want to then make your own cake or pasta dish, whatever, you can just follow the link, and I'll make that available on the website. On the description. The other thing is that this one here will go straight in the fridge, and let's have a look to see how much whey has actually come out. And see, there is quite a lot there, so actually I will remove that and I'll put this back in, and then obviously this will go in the fridge also in a glass container, and it's ready to eat. Whereas with this one here, which is my Primosale cheese, I have got a different treatment. So the first thing I'll do, as it's been sitting there for about 15 minutes, I'll sprinkle a little salt on top, just like this, and as it has actually hardened up a bit, I can actually even use my fingers to spread it, put a little bit more over here. Sale means salt, by the way, so Primosale. This is the very first salt. Primosale is first salt. So I'll tap it down, and what I'll do also, I've got a little plastic coaster. You can use anything you like, but this will need to be under a little pressure, as this will be cheese. And I've got a bottle of beer to just apply a little pressure, and I'll put this under my stairs over there, which is a dry and cool place. And tomorrow morning, actually 6 hours is enough, but 6 hours from now it's going to be the middle of the night, so I don't think I'm going to get up for that. So tomorrow morning, first thing, I will show you how I turn it, and then I'll put some more salt, and then this will be left to mature, but I'll show you that tomorrow. So this will go in the fridge, and we can taste it again tomorrow, and this will go into the stays. Buonanotte for now, and see you tomorrow. Ciao. Buongiorno, and here we go again. So I'll start with the Primosale first, and the first thing to do is to carefully remove the little plate from the top. And here it is. It's actually set quite nicely overnight. So I now wanted to remove it, so very conveniently that I've got this internal little container. It's a little whey there, it's not bad at all. So do this gently, and the first thing I'll do is to go around with my finger so that I dislodge my cheese from my plastic, and I'll turn it the other way, and it should just come off like this, and it's perfect. Last night I applied a little fine salt at the bottom. This is sea salt, a little bit coarser, and I'm going to be using this today. So I'll put some at the top like this, and whilst it's still in my hand, I'll gently spread it across with my fingers. And I'm going to use a little bit of the fine salt for the top next, like this. Sorry, the sides I should say. And I'll put this on a little plate here. Perfect, like this. And this is now ready to rest, and it's actually ready to eat, but it will be a shame because we're making some cheese, some Primosale cheese. So it will be almost ready to eat in about 10 days. So I'm going to place it back in my cupboard under the stairs. I'll cover it with a damp cloth. And every 3 days I'll check it, and I might add a little salt depending on what it looks like. One thing that I wanted to say, as you're making it, you can add some olives or some dried tomatoes. So last night, as I was building it up, I could have actually added some olives, but I knew that it wasn't going to be a lot, so I left it very simple. And also I want to compare to the other one I've got from Sicily. But it would actually make it even more tastier, and in Sicily there are different versions, sometimes with pepper, sometimes with pistachio, olives, whatever you like. You can see that there is plenty of diversification there. So I'll put this on one side and we can take a look at the ricotta. By the way, I have weighed the Primosale cheese, and that is 300 grams. Also the ricotta, including the little bit here, in total is 700 grams. So I have made about 1 kilo of cheese altogether. Cost wise, I've got them written down here. The milk was £3.30, lemons 50 pence, and a little bit of electricity, I say 20 pence. So total cost £4. So 1 kilo is what I've yielded in terms of cheese. So I think if I buy a 250 grams tub of ricotta in the supermarket is £1.40. So this is the equivalent £1. Of course there is labor and all of that, but you do things because of the fun and the love for cooking, of course. So beside it being a little bit more economical than buying it, I already made that ricotta, but I made also some cheese, which is clearly not the same thing. It's also genuine because you've made it and you know what you're making. So I'm not doing exactly the same to what I did with the primosale with the ricotta. Look, this is the amount of liquid at the bottom, and I'll just give it a little rub so that it dislodges, and I'll turn it upside down, and it will little tap hopefully come out relatively easy also. There it is. And doesn't she look beautiful? Look at that. Here, I'll move it closer to the camera so that you get a better angle. I really like it, it's beautiful. I'm going to make a recipe with eggplants and ricotta today, and as and when I publish it, it will be linked to this video. But I did say last night that I was also going to test some of the ricotta when it's cold. I just sprinkled a little salt, and I'll try. And cold is also very, very nice, especially if you're making a salad or you're having it spread on bread. Warm is delicious, but it's got a different flavour. Before I go for today, I was looking at the whey last night, and I put a little cover and I placed it in the fridge and documented myself a little bit, because actually I thought I'll share with you some of the facts about the whey. And I've got a document which also, alongside the recipes for ricotta, I'll make it available so you can look yourself. So I've actually done a little research, and I found out that there are incredible nutritional benefits if you were to consume these, including a high calcium, and so very good for bones density, and lactic acid, and for the gut. But also has got so many applications in cooking. So for example, you can make bread using this whey in the dough instead of water, and it gives a richer taste but also higher in proteins. Something else is you can make soups and stock, and you can cook lentils and beans. So amazing the amount of things you can do with it. I suppose in most cases you can replace water using this, and it will give a different type of flavor, but it seems to be more pleasant than anything else. And of course, as I mentioned, if you don't want to do any of that, you can blend it with some water and use it for garden compost or for fertilizer or whatever. But make sure that you do dilute it, because it can be a little bit acidy and you don't want to kill your plants. So the ratio is about 1/3 of whey, and the rest is going to be water. You can also freeze it, by the way, if you want, and then defrost it depending on the what you want to do with it. And I'm done for today, but before I go, I wanted to leave you with a few recommendations. So if you're making the cheese, do ensure that you store it in a dry and cool area and it's well ventilated. Every so often, 2 or 3 days, just turn it around so that the air gets around it. And also ensure that the room is not too cold or damp, otherwise it will develop mold. On the other hand, if you wanted to use as a soft cheese, a bit like Philadelphia, you can straight away put it in the fridge and consume it within 3 days from making it, and it will be just as delicious. If you leave it for longer while you're storing it, of course, it will get harder and harder, almost like pecorino, and then you can grate it on your pasta or whatever. But you can buy pecorino, you cannot buy primosale, so I would recommend that you eat it after maybe 10 days. The ricotta is very similar, but clearly in terms of storage, straight in the fridge once it cools down, and eat it within 3 days, just like any dairy product that you might buy, and it will be delicious. And as I said, you can have it on many applications, but my list will tell you that. So hopefully you've enjoyed this video. If you are enjoying the channel, do subscribe and let me know in the comments what you think. And if you've got any suggestions, please let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching once again, and have a lovely day, and I'll see you next time. Ciao, ciao.